What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka Descendant of Chaos and Controversy, and I'm back with another video. Oh, I'm trying to figure out how I want to address this particular topic of discussion because this is an argument that isn't new. It has been brought up, discussed over generations, okay? And I do mean generations. Now, the issue that I'm addressing is in reference or in regards to the whole argument surrounding reparations. Should it be awarded to the African descendants of slavery or not? Um, my stand on it is yes. And it's not as cut and dry as, looking at the events that has occurred in history and what black people have done or had to go through, or some of the sacrifices, or some of the traumatic events and horrific experiences, and some of the broken promises and contracts that were broken, that leads me to this conclusion or final thought, and why I feel, or why I suggest, or why I'm in agreement with. Okay. There's many contributions that isn't allowed to be talked about, isn't allowed to be addressed in regards to how or what the roles were that black people or African Americans have played into help build this country, this nation, or whatever. And in some shape or form, we are excluded or not given our fair or due credit to where our participation lies. Okay, and sometimes you have to look, like I said, you have to go and look things up, um, research some of the events that took place here in this country, and find out and figure out who was the contributing factor in regards to building this country, this nation, or whatever, so to speak. Okay, and throughout, the course of time in history, that we have a lot of what is today was built on the backs of slaves, the free labor, you know, um, to the promise of the 40 acres and the mule, you know, the argument between, the black farmers and them not getting, their fair share, and as far as like loans or federal handouts or whatever the case may be, and who was benefiting at that time, and who was excluded. Other things, like a lot of things that black people have invented that other people had took the credit for, and robbed them of their recognition, you know, and then later down the line, years, when people, go to look things up and research, and then facts can be disputed against a particular narrative that was put in place for some time. Now you can debunk it and say, okay, here's the real narrative. Here's the true details and facts giving presented to support this or whatever. And then you have to go and retract the false narrative and replace it with the truth, you know. But I guess the argument that a lot of people have, and I would say it's not just white people, because a lot of people would assume that white people are offended or whatever, but it's not always the case. There are black people who oppose and is not in favor of reparations. And they'll give their reasons why. They're like, I ain't never been a slave. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. I was fortunate in this country. Nobody had a hand give me anything or offer me handouts or whatever. Okay, and that's fine and dandy. By all means, you have the right to have that point of view. That's fair enough. If you feel you don't deserve or want it, okay, you know, I, but when you speak in the interest of fairness, okay, and what you see the where people have a problem with versus where they don't have a problem with, it is no problem when you award foreign aid to other countries and stuff like that, as it was said under another channel, under the CARES Act, tens of billions of dollars, to other areas, federal funding. No one says anything. No one disputes it. No one says, "Oh, I don't think they should be given that." When Americans are suffering under this pandemic or whatever. Nothing. Everything's hush. Okay. Um, when you sign into a bill of the anti-Asian hate crime or whatever the case may be, or whatever, how the Asians are compensated. Some of the tribes that are recognized under the federal recognition, um, and are given like billions upon billions of dollars every year to preserve or give recognition to. Nobody says anything about the Indians. No one says, "Oh, even though this happened a long time ago, whatever, 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 we don't think that they should not get this, or we don't think they should not get that." When it comes to the Jewish community, some of what I've read, and I didn't get it, I didn't understand it, because my question was this. I said, if the Germans did all these atrocities against the Jewish community in Germany, or whatever the case may be, and they did all these horrible things, and we all are aware of the Holocaust and things of that, what transpired at that time, and we all agree that was a horrible time for Jewish people to go through. But not only were the Germany responsible for paying reparations, but America aided in helping pay for the reparations to the Jewish community. Okay? No one says anything against that. You bring up anything about slavery or Jim Crow or segregation or anything that prevented blacks from being or considered or being inclusive and not exclusive, oh, there's a problem. No, we can't have it. But and then again, everything is for like other groups. When there's things for Asian people, it's strictly for Asian. Things are for Indians, it's strictly for Indians. Where things are for Mexicans, it's strictly for Mexicans or Hispanics or whatever. But when it comes to black people, it's like, or when it comes to the LGBTQ community, is strictly for that group of people. But when it comes to black people, it's like, yes, black people, but being that we're minorities, that means everybody else gets to chip in and take crumbs, off the table and stuff like that, to where there's nothing left for the black people. And it's crazy because I've said this in other videos, and then it gave validation to my point when I've seen other people use the same talking points that I've used without even having to sit down with them, in a chat or anything like that. And it's crazy because, when I said, why is it, and this is how I was looking at it, how is it fair that through all the sacrifices, through everything that black people did, through fighting for civil rights, equality, trying to make the playing field equal, addressing some of the inequalities in regards to, like, you know, when it comes to people living in certain neighborhoods or certain areas or going to certain schools, or being accepted, and, you know, the redlining, you know, all of that stuff that excluded black people from being a part of, and then we knocked down those barriers and shit. So, and then made it to where, like, okay, so we did this, so now it didn't only benefit us, but it made it to where other people didn't have to go through the shit that we went through. We made it possible for people. But then here's the thing: you get people that come from other areas and other countries, and they reap the benefits of our ancestors' sacrifices, you know, but still have this attitude, this distaste, this disapproval of, this condescending attitude towards the black community, as if we're lesser than, you know. And it's not saying, oh, this is a black person, you know, uh, how should I say, making it seem like it's a victimhood. No, it's right is right, wrong is wrong. Fairness. Treat people fairly. Don't be one-sided with shit. Don't just start grant other people all these, you know, benefits and access and all this stuff, and exclude people. And then when people say, "Wait a minute, why is it that they get to hold? What the? How are you just gonna ignore, and what the fuck? They just got over here. What the? We've been here for a long fighting for this, and you just gave them the what the fuck? You know, when things are noticeable, and you expect people to just sit back and remain tight-lipped about it and bite their tongue and not say anything, that right there shows the climate and the attitude of America. And no matter how it may appear that we have progressed, we still have this open wound that has yet to be healed, that has yet to be fixed, treated, you know. And it seems like the more that this wound is left open, the more it's becoming infected. And you have all these other infections coming in, and making it to where sooner or later you're going to have to chop that damn arm off. I'm just saying. But in regards to reparations, it's not a matter of who wasn't around during this time, or I didn't do this, or I didn't enslave people. That is like a baseless talking point. It's not about that. It's not about that. Because it's kind of like this. All right, I'll give an analogy. Say you live in a state, right? You live in a state. And say their water supply was contaminated because they had chemical plants or whatever. So you have all these people coming down with cancer and shit like that, right? And you got all these people that these special interest groups that instead of correcting the problem, they try to cover it up. They're not taking any accountability for people coming down with cancer or being sick or drinking contaminated water that these chemical plants are, you know, contaminating, you know? So, and they're making all these excuses and stuff like that. Talking about, oh, well, they had a water filter system that would have corrected the problem if the water wasn't drinkable or stuff like that. So it couldn't have been the water, and it couldn't have been the air, because they have, you know, things to, you know, all these tests run to make sure that, you know, it is approved by OSHA or whatever the case may be. You know, all these excuses to validate but not correcting the problem. Not thinking that what's the contributing factor is or was a problem. Meanwhile, people are still getting cancer. Meanwhile, people are still getting sick. You know, people that are trying to, like, I don't know, go the agricultural route, become farmers and stuff. You know, they can't have healthy crops, you know, that grow during the season in which they farm and stuff like that. You know, because the soil is contaminated. You know, but then they'll say no, it's not their fault. You know what I'm saying? And then say, like, the people that own whatever the chemical plant or whatever the case may be, and they shut it down and whatever. So now you got the next generation and the generation of that, of the kids that own, you know, and they're rich. You know, they got money and stuff, and they you know, benefited off of all this, you know, whatever. But then people come back later and say, okay, we're going to sue you guys because your family was responsible or owned this chemical plant like that. Like, but that was my family. I ain't had nothing to do with that. But you reap the benefits off of the profits that was made off of that chemical plant, right? So you don't think that the people that got sick are entitled to any compensation just because it wasn't you in this generation, whatever, that was responsible? And you're saying, oh, well, you know, the plant's been shut down. You know, it hasn't been operating and running and stuff. So, you know, it's not my fault that, you know, your family got sick or got cancer and shit like that. But it was. But now you're being heartless and you're being, you know, unsympathetic to, you know, what your family was responsible for. There's no accountability for it. And maybe you personally wasn't responsible for it, but your family was. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. I mean, I try to use analogies to make it make sense, but people still argue against and say that they're not for certain things. And no matter how many other counter arguments you have, using the examples of, well, if you feel that way, then that should be it across the board. Asians shouldn't get anything. Indians shouldn't get anything. The Jewish shouldn't get anything. Whatever. If you feel that black people should get anything, then nobody else should get anything. But why is it only black people who people have a problem with saying they shouldn't be allowed to have anything? Oh, but the few crumbs that we throw in the black community, only certain people can prosper and benefit off of it. But not the whole community. Or a good portion of the community. See? And then when people start to pick up on that shit, then you have to backtrack and try and deflect and make another excuse. Or and say, oh, well, we'll give you some intangibles. How about a statue? Or how about a street sign in memory of? What does that do? That doesn't help out the community. Oh, we'll give you a holiday. What the fuck does that do? Because everybody benefits from that holiday, not just black people. You made it a federal holiday for everybody to celebrate, not just the group of people that you meant it for. So, I mean, where are the tangibles? Where are the tangibles? I mean, like I pointed out before in other discussions, you know, you got, and I'm not saying every tribe is recognized because they're not, but you got a good amount of Indian tribes under federal recognition. They're getting money, federally funded, and no one is disputing that. No one said, oh, well, you know, even though the Indians were basically slaughtered and erased and virtually extinct or whatever the case may be, removed from history, we're against them getting anything. You don't hear no arguments on saying any of that. You don't hear nobody supporting that rhetoric. Uh-uh. Same thing about black people getting anything like that. It's like, nope, 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 nope. You just want handouts. You just want handouts. All black people are lazy. All black people don't want to do this. Black people don't want to do that. All they want is people to just hand them shit. Hand them shit. You ain't saying that to other groups. And if black people were so lazy, why were we the ones made to be slaves to do the work so other motherfuckers could be lazy and not do shit? That's what I want to know. I'm just saying. But anyway, till next time, until next video. Peace.